So one day I'm 10 years old, and my Uncle Joe, who was a merchant marine, hard drinker, 20 years on a ship, merchant marine, right? An older guy. He sees me that I'm upset, and I have maybe a tear in my eye, and he says to me, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Uncle Joe, my mom's on me again, and she doesn't give me a break." And he looked at me and he said, "You got a dictionary in the house?" I said, "A dictionary?" He said, "A dictionary," just like that. I said, "Yeah." He said, "Go get it." I go upstairs, bring the dictionary down to him, and he says, "Open it up." I open it up, and he says, "I want you to look for the word sympathy, and once you see it there, don't ever look for it again." Oh, just like that. Wow. And yeah, and you know what? It's stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Oh, don't ever look for sympathy. Don't ever look for the, why did this happen to me? Just figure out how to deal with it.
How to deal with it.
Yes, and then you'll understand the how.
Hi, this is Chazz Palmiteri,
The Wise, and this is Michael Franzese,
the wise guy. And we are going to do another question on the book, Man's Search for Meaning. Is that right?
Yes. Before we do that, how was your week, Chazz?
My week? My week was, I was searching for meaning in my week, I have to tell you that. No, my week was pretty good. I'm enjoying this podcast immensely. I think we're having fun doing it. I mean, look, you have a great solo podcast. I have a great solo podcast. But when we do, so many people requested that we do our own podcast. They like us together because I think we find a certain way to talk to them that they don't get on other podcasts, you know?
Well, the chemistry is good.
The chemistry
and this
great.
is coming from all the comments that we've been getting
Yes.
on both of our podcasts. So it's been great. And I think the comments that we're continuing to get now have been wonderful. And we really hope that, we're helping some of you. That's the whole idea. I learned long ago, whenever you can listen to people that have experience and wisdom and they're presenting it to you the right way for your benefit, soak it up,
Soak it up.
Soak it up. Because
Right.
you can never get enough knowledge and wisdom in this life. Because look, it's tough to navigate this life, people. I tell people this all the time, Chazz, and you'll agree. Even when everything is good, when everything is going great in your life, you're at the top of your game.
Right.
Boom, something happens out of nowhere.
Something happens.
Who knows? Your job, your this, your that, a
Right.
hurricane. Things happen.
COVID.
COVID. Look
Right.
look what COVID did.
COVID
Now,
wiped out the world.
and let me tell you, how many people did not come out of it well?
Oh,
They weren't, you know why? They weren't prepared mentally, emotionally, their character. Maybe they didn't face adversity in the proper way. And so many people, unfortunately, were destroyed. Well, hopefully, when you listen to what we have to say, it'll prepare you for the next calamity, because there's going to be one. That's the world we live in.
It's not if, it's when.
It's when.
It's when. Yeah, I mean, many people, Beverly Hills, Bel Air, where I live here now, you have these big houses, and all of a sudden, they over-leverage themselves. COVID hits, all money stops.
Absolutely.
Stops. It's like a spigot. Turns off. Many of these people had to sell their home.
Absolutely.
They over-leveraged, and people, divorces and suicide because they couldn't take it.
No. And look what happened not too long ago. One of the biggest banks in the country collapsed, failed. And when these things happen, they don't give you a warning. It happens, boom, overnight. It was like the Great Depression. It was like what happened in 2008.
Right.
Boom, these things just happen. You're not prepared. You don't know. How do you face these kind of things? Well, hopefully you've built up, a resistance in your life. You've built up your character. You know how to accept adversity. You know how to move around, get around things, put yourself in the right position. And I think in our cases, Chazz, you and I have been two survivors in that regard.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. We've both been through a lot. Now, have we been through as much as, obviously, the man who wrote this book? No.
Well,
no.
Listen, you survived cancer.
Yes.
I survived the street, the hole. And again, I think we both face it in this way, people, in a humble way. By the grace of God, we realize there's been a different plan and purpose for our lives. We're not claiming credit for it.
No.
We're thankful for it. We're thankful we somehow got through these things.
Right. And that takes us to our question, I think, that we were going to talk about.
And, again, an amazing book. I can't fathom how this man had the the will, the stamina to write such a book, such a brilliant book during the Holocaust. He was in the Holocaust. He didn't know if he's going to live the next hour. And he writes a book like
what
this.
he saw.
Oh.
And he's writing a book, Man's Search for Meaning.
Yes.
What was Frankl, right?
Yeah, Victor Frankl.
Victor Frankl.
And we covered some of these areas before, but I think this is one of the lessons in the book, one of the things that he got out of it or trying to teach people. And it was so insightful. And I think what he talks about in this is how to face different circumstances, how to face adversity. And what he says is we have the ability to choose our attitudes and our responses, even in the most challenging circumstances. In other words, having the why to live for can bear almost any how. So if you have the why, you understand why you're living, you can bear through almost any how. How do you do it? You have the why, you can get through the how.
Wow. I mean, you know, it really, there's that famous line, I don't remember who wrote it, but they said life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react.
How you face it, right.
You know, it's a famous line. And that has helped me a great deal because I always think about that. I go, you know, if something happens to you, it's not like, hey, why me? It's like, well, why not? Yeah. You know, well, who am I to say that this can't happen to me? Exactly. What am I? You know, am I like, I got this glow around me that nothing can happen? Of course not. So things will happen. So I think when you search for a higher meaning than yourself, and we talked about it in other episodes about, you know, the outside world doesn't do anything. Money, fame. Now, here's a guy, you get a rich guy. I mean, I don't want to say who, but say there's a multi-billionaire, billions of dollars, incredible family. Oh, say he's single. He's got all the women he wants in the world. You're a sports star. You're famous. People look up to you. And all of a sudden, you go to the hospital for your checkup, and a 22-year-old, 24-year-old little doctor says to you, I got news to you. And he gives you like bad news. You have to follow this. It's like, excuse me? Mm-hmm. Excuse me? I'm sorry. Could you say that again, please? It's like life. Bam! You have all this. And you know what? Steve Jobs, who had more money than him? He could have done anything he wanted. Huh? Life said, you know what? For whatever reason, Steve-O, it's going to happen. Why? But look, he did a lot for a lot of people. I'm sure he did. But for whatever reason, you know, he didn't get saved. So nobody's that powerful. Nobody.
You know, I tell my kids, you know, they say, why did this happen to me? And I said, you know, you're asking that question. Let me ask you this. Do you realize these kids in Africa and some of these underprivileged countries that are suffering, and all they did to gain that suffering was be born? Right. They did nothing else.
Nothing else.
And you're complaining here. So don't ask me why this happened, okay? You need to know how you're going to deal with the situation now that it has happened.
Yes.
So if you can understand the why, the way I look at things, Chazz, you know, is that life is just tough. Life throws curveballs. You never know what's going to happen in life. It's very transitory. Things that are happening are unexpected. So you understand that. That's something that you know. Right. So once you realize that, the next thing is, okay, I know how I'm going to deal with it. If you understand why, if you don't feel sorry for yourself.
Right, exactly.
You know, my Uncle Joe, I'll never forget, he taught me a lesson. Listen to this. My mom was very tough on me. You know, I always say this. My dad hopefully made me a little smart. My mother made me tough. She did not spare the rod. I got a lot of beatings as a kid, right? She probably got locked up in today's day and age. Yeah. But anyway, I learned a lot. So one day I'm 10 years old, and my Uncle Joe, who was a merchant Marine, hard drinker, 20 years on a ship, merchant Marine, right? An older guy. I come into the room. I was at my grandmother's house, maybe 10 years old. And he sees me that I'm upset. And I have maybe a tear in my eye. And he says to me, what's wrong with you? I said, Uncle Joe, my mom's on me again. And, you know, she's always on top of me. And she doesn't give me a break. And he looked at me and he said, you got a dictionary in the house? I said, a dictionary? He said, a dictionary, just like that. I said, yeah. He said, go get it. I go upstairs. I bring the dictionary down to him. And he says, open it up. I open it up. And he says, I want you to look for the word sympathy. And once you see it there, don't ever look for it again.
Oh,
just like that.
wow.
And yeah, and you know what? It's stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Oh, and don't ever look for sympathy. Don't ever look for the, why did this happen to me? Just figure out how to deal with it.
How to deal with it.
Yes. And then you'll understand the how.
Michael, that's a great story. You know, there's a great book, and I don't remember the name of it, but we'll have our people look it up. And it was written by all CEOs of companies. And all these CEOs of companies, they wrote, what's the secret that made you a CEO? Like, and most of them, and they got the answer, and the answer was, I mean, if you try to guess what it is, you would say, well, perseverance. Wouldn't take no for an answer. Nope, that wasn't it. Was great to win friends and, you know, and make people work for them. Being a great leader. No, that wasn't it. All those things help, but the number one thing to be a success, and I say this out there to the people, the number one thing was adaptability. How you adapt to a situation.
Exactly. I totally agree.
That was the key. That was the key to their success.
Agreed. You know, another example of that, my dad, you know, Sonny Franzese, framed on a crime that he didn't commit. Chazz, I'll take that to my grave.
Right.
Forget what he might have done in his life. The crime that he went to prison for.
He was innocent.
Bank robbery, innocent, no doubt. I was guilty for the crime that I went to jail for. I pled guilty, that was it. My dad would say, why did this happen? And I say, you know why, Dad? Because you trusted your lawyer. You didn't get involved in your case. You didn't help yourself one bit. So that's how this happened. You got railroaded. You got basically sold out.
Right.
What did it teach me? I went to trial 5 times. I worked so hard to help my lawyer to defend myself that I ended up beating every case. Ultimately, I took a plea later on. But beat every case because I understood the why this happened, because I was a target. But then I understood how to help myself.
Right.
So again, it's just another example. If you understand the why, this is a brilliant, lesson that he's teaching us. If you understand why things are happening, you'll learn how to deal with them.
Right. It's like the person who said, I always like to give credit to the person who said the 2 greatest days, the most important days of your life is the day you're born and the day you realize why.
Yeah. You know what? That's even in a bad situation. Let's say, God forbid you got cancer.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's life.
Because that's life.
Things happen. So even if it's a bad outcome, you'll understand how to deal with the bad outcome.
Right.
So it doesn't always work out right, but at least you'll know how to deal with it.
And what Victor Frankl, when he wrote this book, I think people say, well, why did he write the book? Obviously, there's a lot of reasons why. But I think what he's saying is that he believed his life was about service and to give service to others and not to be so idealistic that we're not saying, oh, our podcast is this. Our podcast is about giving service to others.
Yes.
To hope that other people learn from my mistakes and your mistakes, that other people, because the universe has got all these ideas. We're not doing anything like groundbreaking.
Right.
We're just explaining what's there already in a somewhat entertaining way. So, and if it gets someone thinking of doing something different, or in my situation, if it gets someone to stop smoking, one person, we did our job. If it gets some young kid who's on the street saying, oh man, what Michael's saying about prison and the whole, you know what? I got to get my shit together here. We did our job. And you know what? And people go, well, you can't save the whole world, Chazz. I had somebody say that to me once. And I said, look, man, did you ever hear the story about the guy walking on the beach? And they said, what? I said, there was a guy walking on the beach, and there was all these starfish all along the beach. And he would walk along, and we saw this guy, and he said, you've seen this man walking along, and that's a true story. This man would walk along the beach, pick up starfish, throw them in the water. Pick up starfish. There were starfish all along the beach. And if you don't throw them in the water, the son, they died. So a man walked over to him and said, "Sir, what are you doing?" He said, I'm saving the starfish. And the guy said, "You can't save all these starfish." He said, "I just saved this one." And that's what our show is about. Our show is about service. Our show is about fun. Our show is about talking about the books, the great books that have been written, and our experiences, our life experiences about what we went through, and we hope that you learn from that. Yeah. So I just got to say that it's always great. It's always fun to do these, Michael. And each week we'll do some episodes on one book, maybe do another one. Who knows how many episodes we'll do on a book. And I have to tell you, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button.
And if you have any comments, suggestions, anything you want to share with us, we do read your comments. Our team does. I know we get a lot of them, but we're doing this for you. So we want to hear what you have to say, and we want to, give you the best possible advantage from our experiences that we possibly can.
I'm Chazz Palmiteri,
the Wise, and I'm Michael Franzese,
the Wise Guy.
See you next time.